Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrets It, Brexit Britain, a country whose Prime Minister can be caught lying in the most egregious way. And the people who investigate him will say, yes, we know he's lying and we've caught him in a lie, but. And also, welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me, and a special thanks here to everybody who signed up our channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that have signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all messages and I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. So, Ghislaine. This is one of the biggest scandals, right, in history. This is absolutely ridiculous what has happened in America, right? You know, to think, right, that Ghislaine has gone for a trial, right? She's been found guilty, right? And then there's people who have come out a couple of days after, right, and have said, well, I'm the victim of sexual assault or child or there was interfered with a child or whatever, right? And they've said that they have influenced the jury, right? You know, into making sure that Ghislaine gets what's coming to her. Think, are these people motherfucking crazy, right? Because I know for definite, right, that they all had to tick, right, to say that they had never ever that nothing like that had ever happened to them. So no sexual assaults, nothing, right? You know, no paedophilia, nothing, right? Or they wouldn't have been out, or right, the defence would have certainly had them off of the jury, because you know that would be something to say, well, you know, we can't have that person on because, right, they're a victim themselves, right? So these people, right, if that box is there and they haven't ticked that box, right, then they're in. I mean, these people are in serious trouble, right? I don't think that, you know. Listen, I don't know what's going on, but this whole thing to me seems very suspicious, very, very suspicious. Because right now, yeah, you're dealing with like Ghislaine Maxwell, right? A woman who knows every influential person in the world, okay? Every influential person Ghislaine has partied with, or she's met, she's had dinner with, she's hung out with, every last one of them. And I'm talking Hollywood stars, politicians, sports people, right? You know, just a lot, the works, right? Have all, Ghislaine knows all of them, right? And so far, right, Ghislaine has kept her mouth closed. She hasn't, you know, she hasn't tittle-tattled, right? She hasn't told tales out of school, right? She hasn't spoken about any of these people that we know that she knows a lot about them. She knows, well, she would know a lot of stuff about these guys, right? And she hasn't said anything, right? And then all of a sudden, right, now it very much looks to me as if to say, you know what, there's going to be a mistrial, because there's got to be. Two people on the jury have come out, right, a couple of days after, right, a case, right, and basically said, you know what, we fixed this case. That's what they're saying, right? Now, I don't think these people realise yet that contempt of court in that way, yeah, is going to get you a few years in prison. It's not a joke, right? You know what these people have done, right, is very, very serious, right? And it can land you in prison for a long time, right? Because they've gone for a whole trial, and that trial cost a lot of money, right? So these people, you know, the judge, right, is going to throw the book at these two jurors. Going to throw the book at them, right? You know, unless this story is made up or whatever, right? And it's not the people that said it, and someone's just messing about here. That's the biggest hope. That's what the case is, because these people, yeah, are, you know, the court is going to take a very dim view to what these people have done. All right, so And the problem is, with the influence, right, that Ghislaine has. There's no doubting this woman has major influence. Maybe she couldn't get out of prison, right? But let me tell you, the influence what she's got, it's major. Right, and there's more than likely a lot of people out there, who don't really want Ghislaine to really speak. Right now, she could be in a position where she just said, you know what, listen, right, I'll let this go up to a certain point, but that point has been crossed now because I've been convicted, and then all of a sudden, right, now this conviction is unsafe. Right now, if there is a mistrial, there's a good chance that Ghislaine, right, could get bail. Very good chance she could get bail, right? Because her lawyer will be able to argue, will be able to argue a very good case for her to maybe to get bail with conditions, right? But the thing is with Ghislaine, it doesn't matter how much conditions that you have, right? If she gets bail, she's out of there in a millisecond. She's gone. Right? If I was a mate of hers, I would just advise her to go to Israel, because they won't deport her ass back from there. Right? And even if she does get sent to prison in Israel, right, she's not going to get the crazy sentence what she would get in America, the 40, the 50 or the 60 years that she would get in America. She's not going to get that in Israel, right? And Israel won't deport her, right? So that's going to be her best bet. Find her ass back in Israel, ass to Israel, right? But that's what I can see happening. I can see, right, Ghislaine getting bail, right? Because believe me, right, she knows people, right, that have got more people that have got private jets, right, than we have had hot dinners. Okay. That's right, So there are so many people that can fly Ghislaine out of that country. There are so many people that will help her to fly out of that country, because all of her friends, they've all got their private jets, and all of their private jets can reach to anywhere in the world. Right, so that is what I'm thinking. That's how I'm thinking about this, because it is impossible, right, that the prosecution have been that incompetent, right, for this to happen. It's impossible, right, because this has been like a show trial. It's been one of the world's biggest trials, like especially ending this year. When did it end? 2021 or 22? Right, well, whenever it ended. Right, it's one of the biggest trials of the year. It's a massive trial. Right, it's Ghislaine Maxwell. She's world famous. Everybody knows who this woman is. Right, and so for that to happen, right, I mean the defense. I mean this is great for the defense, because this is great for for an appeal or anything like that. It's great for anything like that. But I can really see them arguing to get her out of prison until her trial, at which stage I think that she's just going to do a Lord Lucan. Gone. And then we got yesterday. Yesterday, obviously we had the whole Colson statue business. Do you know what I mean? Where there's the massive fallout. Some people think it's criminal damage, and that's the end of that. Other people have taken much more of a progressive view towards it and said, well, something, they've been trying to get this statue taken down for years and years and years, right? And it's just, and that hasn't happened, right? But there's been a lot of talk obviously about people like someone like Winston Churchill, right? And so, well, because me personally, I would love to tear down the Churchill statue, because I think that Churchill was he was a white supremacist. There's no doubt in that. Absolutely no doubt in that, right? Because Churchill said, well, he didn't think it was a crime what happened to the Native Americans, right? And he certainly didn't think it was a crime what happened to the Aborigines, right? Because they was replaced by white people. That's what Churchill said himself. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously, right? He remember he poisoned the the Afghanis, right? And then you took, and then 4 million Indians, Bengal, and the list goes on and on and on for Churchill. Do you know what I mean? And this is and they expect, right? They expect me, right, to hold Churchill up as if to say he's some type of war hero, and everything he done was fantastic. And and the British people, and he is a, if he's the true representative of the British people, then the British people are white supremacists, because that's what Churchill was, right? And in the Second World War, right, when Churchill took over, right, the people of this country, right, couldn't give a fuck what was happening to Jewish people. They couldn't care. They couldn't care less. Right? They couldn't care less. Right? Until, right, Hitler decided he was going to invade and take over Great Britain. And that's the reason. That's the reason why. That's the real reason why. But it was just saving Jewish people was just a benefit for Britain. Right? That's all it was. Right? It wasn't. They didn't go out to do that. Right? That was just a bonus on what happened, because as far as the British people was concerned, the Jewish people could look after motherfucking self. They really did not care. All you have to do is just look back at the newspapers then, and the newspapers will tell you straight, right? What the British people are saying, the country's full up. They can't come here, right? This is why Hitler is murdering them, right? And the British people, no, don't come, right? But obviously, when Hitler decided that he was going to take over Britain, that was it. That's when the British people stepped up. At that point, do you know what I mean? So all of this, and then the way how they arranged the history in a different way. They arranged it to say, well, you know what, we went out and we saved the Jewish people. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Do you know what I mean? You wasn't. I mean, that was all. It was just said. It was that was a bonus for you, saving Jewish people, right? Because it made you look as if to say, you know what, that's what you, but that's not what happened. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just like, well, okay. I'm like, with Churchill, it's the same with me. It's the same with Tony Blair, right? Well, yeah, you've done some fantastic things, right? But the 750,000 dead Iraqis, right, is where your legacy is. That is it right there. Okay, it doesn't matter what else you've done. In the same way, that's the same way with Churchill. It doesn't matter what else you've done. Yeah, 4 million Indians died at your hands because of you. Right, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other things you've done, and why and then well, when you look at the rest of the things that he's done, do you know what I mean? The rest of the things he's done it was just as tyrannical. Do you know what I mean? And then as I was saying about Colson, obviously, like, for me, anyone who's standing up for that statue, obviously you're standing up for slavery. You're standing up that's what you're standing up for. And for me, I just look at that as one of the world's most evil acts ever. I mean, the Holocaust was just as evil. It just didn't go on for as long. It's just as evil. These acts was the most horrific acts ever carried out against human beings anywhere on the planet. Right? And for me, right, it should really be like white people who are prepared to tear these statues down. Say, listen, this is not this. This is because at any stage that you would have lived, right, you would have known that slavery was wrong. Even if you was living in the middle of it, you'd have known that it was wrong. Right? That's a fact. There's no way you can look at that and say, well, they had a point. No, they didn't have no point. They was just evil. They was just the most evil people to have ever lived. That's all. And to have these people, have statues of these people all over the country, right, it's depressing. That's what it is. It's depressing. That's what it is. For me, I can remember watching Roots, right, when I was very young. I'm sure I was under 10, right, and it was a horror movie. That's what it was. It was, that shit couldn't be real because, I never knew anything. Obviously, I never knew anything about slavery before that. Do you know what I mean? And then, obviously, like, my parents thought, that we should be obviously educated with that, on that type of thing. Do you know what I mean? But it was a absolute horror show, right? And from since then, I've been disturbed from since then. Right, because because it was one of the worst. I have never ever seen, right, anything, right, that was just the most disgusting thing that I could have ever seen, right, and I've been to the Caribbean, right, and I've seen the implements because obviously they've got a lot of the historic places where they'll have like whipping trees, or they've got places where they've got the cells and stuff like that, right? And and in the museums you can see like implements, right, that they used to put on slaves to control them, like neck restraints and full face restraints and just some of the most horrific and evil things, right, that you can think of, right, and then you have people defending the Colson statue, knowing that this man, right, was responsible for, I believe it was about 15,000 children, right, that he brought across from Africa, right. I do know that 19,000 people, right, was thrown into the water by Colson because they died on the journeys, on the journeys back, to the Caribbean or to America. Right. So this is the type of people who these people expect to put up on statues, and people like me to say, well, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You can have these people on their statues, and I'll walk past it and not even worry about it. That right there, yeah, is the Great Britain that I know. That is the Great Britain that I know. That's an evil and callous place, and that's why you motherfucking fools voted for Brexit. Right. So here we go. I don't know if you've seen the story today, right? In the Daily Mail are saying there's no problem in the NHS at all. There's no crisis, and the Mirror said, there's a massive crisis in the NHS. Things are going really badly, right? And then, right, all of the people that I've listened to on the radio today that have been working for the NHS seem to agree with the Daily Mirror and said there's a massive crisis. And then I just heard on the radio, right? There's a massive crisis in the NHS. Right? But the Daily Mail is, no crisis. Because you see, the Daily Mail and them, they're just buttering this country up, right, for the privatisation of the NHS. Because a lot of the NHS is already privatised anyway. Right? That's the thing. A lot of it's privatised anyway as it is. Right? They've just done that. They've literally done that by stealth, and some of it in your face. Like most ambulances, I think a lot of the ambulances are run privately, especially like the non-blue light ambulances. Right? They're a lot of them are run by private companies now. But you see, remember when private companies are running these things, yeah, they're just being paid by the local council or whatever to do it. That's who's paying them. Do you know what I mean? So it's taxpayers paying them anyway, right? And then they can just disperse the money amongst their taxpayers, amongst the taxpayers of the company, amongst the taxpayers, amongst the shareholders. They can just disperse the taxpayers' money, what they're being paid to run that service, amongst the shareholders. Done. Do you know what I mean? They just, all they do is just come in, just make sure that the service runs much more efficiently, which means obviously just getting rid of staff, because people cost money. So that's the main thing that these companies do when they get these other contracts, is they just get rid of staff and just cut it down to as minimal as they can. And they're prepared to just say, what, for the rest we'll just get temps in. That's it. Right. But remember where Rishi Sunak was a couple of weeks ago? Rishi Sunak was in America, right, speaking to the healthcare companies in America. And he said, well, what was he doing that for? because they're just getting, they're just buttering the NHS up to be sold off. Right? Remember how they just sold off the Royal Mail a couple of years ago? They sold it off, right? Just run it down first of all, right? Made it look like it was really inefficient, and then sold it off. Boom. Done. Do you know what I mean? The same thing they're going to try with the NHS. Do you know what I mean? But as I said, at least, yeah, probably 30, 35, maybe 40% of it is already in private hands anyway. So it doesn't really, I don't really think there's going to be much change. I don't really think there's going to be much change there anyway. Do you know what I mean? And so can you believe what's happened to Djokovic? They've got Djokovic locked up in Australia. Right? Even Djokovic's parents have said they treated him inhumanely, right? Because they got him locked up, right? And his prime minister, or his president, has come out and he's criticised the Australian president or prime minister, or whoever it is, right? But you see, the thing is, yeah, I don't know how much people have died in Australia from COVID, yeah, but. It's nowhere near. Obviously, it's nowhere near the 160,000 that have died in this country from the disease. Do you know what I mean? Right? But the Australians seem to put human life before the economy, even though they're a bunch of motherfucking racist fools. Right? They seem to really put human life much, but because they just shut everything down, and the amount of deaths they've had over there, right? Is just like, it's nothing compared to what's happened in this country. I know the population size is different because there's 25, 26 million people in such a vast country, right? But as I said, obviously the cities are going to be a bit more packed up, but so you would expect COVID to spread in that sense, but no, they've had nothing, because they've made sure and kept their people, COVID, as COVID free as possible, right? You haven't been able to get into Australia. Right, I don't think they've had any tourism or anything like that. So you've had to be a resident to go there, or if you've gone there, you've had to go into isolation, as a standard procedure. Do you know what I mean? And you have to test negative before they would even let you in Australia. Right, so so they've kept it. They seem to have kept it down, right, much better than Britain have kept it down. Right, but so this is the reason why they've got Djokovic there, because obviously, right, Djokovic thought that he could serve them the papers to say, that he doesn't need. I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether he's vaccinated or whether I don't know. But for some reason, he thought that he could. He thought that if he went over there, yeah, and caused a bit of a racket, obviously they would let him in. Do you know what I mean? But his paperwork didn't seem to match up. I think I'll get any more in. But yeah, so they got Djokovic locked up, right? So let's speak about some Brexit anyway, quickly. So Boris Johnson obviously has refused, right, to remove the VAT off of the energy cost. He said that's a blunt tool. Even though while he was convincing you to vote for Brexit, right? He said, remember when he was convincing you? He said, "Oh, if you vote for Brexit, yeah, I can, we can do things like removing the VAT off of." And it's just like, yeah, well, right. But him again, do you know what I mean? He's had another day where he's been caught out lying, and the person investigating has just said, you know what? We have caught him lying. We know he's lying, and he's lied to us. But but what? But we're just going to we don't think he done it on purpose. Oh, fuck off. This is why Boris Johnson has got away with these type of things his whole life, because he was like that at school, where he would get caught out with all different nonsense, and people just are prepared to just overlook it. Do you know what I mean? And so even now, as Prime Minister, Right, the person who Boris Johnson, right, put in charge of investigating Boris Johnson. Yeah, very complicated, but I'm not going to go through that again, right? But that guy, right, because he's Lord Gype, and then you've got Lord Brownlow. He's the one, yeah, who did just nice Boris Johnson up with the cash to have the £850 a roll wallpaper, right? You know when they say that your bills is going up by £1,200, imagine that's like what? That's a roll. That's one roll and a quarter. All right, okay, let's say half, because it's under half. But let's say one roll and a half, right, of Boris Johnson's wallpaper. Right, how much your electric bill is going to pay up. So when you look at it in that sense, you say, well, actually, it's not that much then, really, is it? Because I mean, if you think about what you paid on your wallpaper, yeah. So anyway, we're supposed to be speaking about Brexit, not speaking about Boris Johnson. And you know, I saw an interview, with I think it was a Telegraph reporter or journalist, right, who was speaking about the benefits of Brexit. Right. You see, I'm doing this all the time. Yeah. Yesterday, I'm calling Professor Normsky, and I'm like, I could hear it in my head that it was wrong. I could hear it was wrong. Do you know what I mean? But I'm going Normsky. I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't even sound right. I was speaking about Professor Chomsky, right? One of the most influential people in the world, one of my favourite people in the world. I would have loved to have gone to university with Professor Chomsky. Let me tell you that. Right? I would have went to every minute of every lecture, right? Because I think he's in the. He probably still gives lectures in there because he was in the University of Arizona, right? So I think he probably still gives lectures. Do you know what I mean? Right, knowing him and how coherent he still is, right? And so I saw this interview with this journalist from the Telegraph, right? Now I don't know what his name is, but what I can tell you, is he seems to model himself off of Kwasi Kwarteng. Right, but anyway, so he was like trying to say some of the benefits of Brexit. So he's mentioned something about the crown on the glasses with yourself. Seriously, so do you honestly believe, right, that being in the EU meant that we couldn't have a crown on our glasses? Because you know that being in the EU didn't mean that we had to move over to kilos and all that type of stuff. You could have stayed with your pounds and ounces, right? That was completely up to you. It didn't mean, because that didn't mean that at all. These are things that they've just told people over the years. Yeah, well, it means that, and you think to yourself, no, it never meant that. So the whole crowd, you think to yourself, seriously, is this what you've got? And then I'm sure he said something about the cookies as well on the computer. Do you know what I mean? You think to yourself, seriously. So, and then he spoke about like Arcos and said, "Oh, we could be in Arcos if like." You think to yourself, well, actually, you could have. Right? There would be nothing stopping you, right, from being in the bilateral agreement with America and Australia, being in the EU. Right? When it comes down to military ways, there would be nothing stopping you, right? Do you know what I mean? And and then there'll be like, there's obviously the vaccine rollout. And you think, oh, come on, give me a break. Right? Everybody knows that that's not true. Even you must know that's not true. Do you know what I mean? Then you think to yourself, seriously. Anyway, look, I've been speaking here for nearly 29 minutes, and I think this is a bit too long right now. Yeah, and I did want to speak about the flipping the coconut Calvin Robinson. Did want to speak about him. Another time anyway guys, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.